Welcome to the Art of Growth, where we use the Enneagram and the best tools we can find to help people develop self-knowledge, self-awareness, and transformational habits. We are in a 3-part series where we are talking about the high side of each type. So often the Enneagram, in that world, there's a focus on the shadow side, and we wanted to spend a few episodes talking about the high side and the gift of each type. So our last episode focused on the body types, the 8, the 9, and the 1. And in this episode, we are focusing on the heart types, the 2, the 3, and the 4. So before we get into it, wanted to let you know that the hub of all of our work is theartofgrowth.org. If you want to sign up to take the beta version of the online test we are developing, you can do that there at theartofgrowth.org. And if you email us, I will actually send you the beta test even now, as we are in a very early stage. If you're interested in coaching or training for individuals or teams or corporations, you can email us there as well. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. All right, so we're doing this series where we talk about what is the strength of each type, what each type brings to a relationship. And we're not talking just in context of romantic relationships, partners, but in work environments as well, parenting. There's that each type has specific gifts, and how so often we focus on the shadow side of each of the types, because that's where sometimes the development has to happen. And that's a good thing. That's an important part of the work. But in this, we also know that when you're referring to the other person, when you have other people in your life, you want to actually honor and celebrate the good things that they bring. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about what each type brings to the relationships and the connections that they're in. You know, our last episode, we talked about the 8, 9, and the 1, the body triad. And this one, we're going to talk about the 2, 3, and the 4, the heart triad. So we'll start with the 2.
Yeah. Before I jump into the 2, I want to say a little bit more about that. You know, the reason why we practice gratitude, the reason why we talk about the high side, the positives, the strength, is because that's the stuff that gives air. That's the stuff that gives energy for you as you're working on the things that are harder to work on, right? We're talking about leveraging your strengths. We're talking about ways of actually utilizing your strength to make the world a better place, right? To make relationships better. And when you do so, you're energized. And then you have a reason for why I want to work on this low side, because it's sabotaging my high side and, you know, the contribution I have to the world.
So the type 2.
So the type 2 is the helper, or known as the helper. Some type 2s would say, you know, I prefer it being called the one who something along the lines of connecting, like, because it's the heart triad, right? So there's this desire to connect from the heart space, to feel like there's no boundary between me and you, in the best sense, in the purest sense, like we're deeply connected. And so heart types look for that connection through the heart space. The high side, the gift of the 2, is their ability to understand the world of emotions that other types don't always see. You know, I will walk into a room and it's not the first thing I see. But for 2s, they'll pick up on the data. What's happening? Who needs care? Who needs support? And so what they do is they bring that heartfelt compassion, tenderness, and practical, like, I can help you. I can genuinely make things easier for you and better for you if you'll let me in, if you'll allow me to. And they do. They have such a good sense of who needs help and how to help.
Yeah.
And when it's done well, it is so spot on that many times they're helping people who don't even know that they needed help, and then later on find out how much they actually needed it, and are so grateful to the type 2 for having done that.
Yeah, there's such a welcome with the 2. And it doesn't just welcome your high side. They're really good at welcoming all of you. Just talking to a type 2 recently, who was talking about they feel honored when someone's bringing even the pain of their story to them.
Mm.
And to where so many others are
Yeah.
worn out by that, like the two, it doesn't get worn out by that. They're not put off by that. They have this space inside of them to welcome you in to your own pain, and to allow space for you to share it.
Mm.
And they are actually like energized by the honor of hearing your story. They're really great at like hearing your story about pulling things out of you, because they want to know the practical thing. Like, how do I actually help you get to a healthier, happier, more beautiful, place? And a lot of times it's extremely practical. Like, they will show up and help you in some very physical kind of way. And they have that dual capacity of both the physical help and the emotional space. And I think they're really unique in that way, because they can do that dual thing so well.
Yeah. One serves the other. It's I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be helpful to you, and I don't mind. And that's one thing about you see that level of humility in the two, where they do not mind whatever it is that needs to be done to serve you. I don't. There's no like, well, I'm too important for that, or I've got other things that are more important. It's oftentimes the self recedes and the other person emerges and rises higher in terms of importance. So the two does that really well. And without twos, there'd be a lot of people feeling disconnected in this world. I mean, if you think about the workplace, wow, a two can bring that family, home, warmth, understanding of each other, connection in ways that others can't. And so that's the dynamic that's really important in the workplace and for customers. So if you're thinking about who do I want to make customers feel, feel that warmth and that comfort and that hospitality kind of component to it, oftentimes twos are the people that will do that.
Yeah, they're really good at making the other person feel special. They're really good at making the other person feel like they are valued, like as a customer, as a partner, because they want you to feel good. They want you to feel like everything is good in the world, and so they'll do what it takes to make that happen. And that's really just a sweet gift that I like so appreciate from the twos in my life.
Yeah, yeah. And so we appreciate that, not what they can't do.
Yeah.
And if they can't do certain things that, you want them to, well, that's fine. That's not what they do. But here's what they do, and they do that very well. And so we appreciate that and welcome that.
So the type 3 is just has an incredible capacity to achieve and to get things done. And I think a lot of times people value that side of them, like the real productive side, the real capacity for figuring things out. They're very, very sharp, very good at problem solving and prioritization and creating things. But they have this capacity to take in not just what needs to be done, but when they're really in a good spot, like how they can include others in that process. And we've recently been benefiting from a 3 in our world who just knows how to like pull in the information and the data and the team and the people. And when they are on the high side, I mean, they can just get something done, but it's a distributed effort.
Threes sometimes are viewed as the ones that they tend to want to fly solo and achieve. So it's like, give me the ball, let me run across the finish line. There is that part of the 3, for sure. It's like, yes, I want to achieve, and I want to, I don't want people in my way as I go and succeed. Yeah. But there's also this other side of the 3 that's been really interesting to watch as I've talked with a number of 3s in my world, that there's a great joy that comes from when they equip somebody and they've given them like, here's the plan, here's how you can also succeed,
Yeah.
And then when that person takes that plan and executes it and succeeds, then they come back to the 3 and say, hey, I did it. The 3 feels tremendous sense of joy, of gratitude, of fulfillment. And so as you were describing that, I was thinking about how, 3s will walk into a situation of chaos and they create order. And then what they do is they create an efficient plan. They think plan almost immediately. It's like problem plan, boom.
Yeah.
It emerges inside them. They have a plan for an efficient, fast. Like if you want to get from point A to point B, and you want to do it in the fastest, most efficient way because that's necessary for this thing to work, type 3s are probably among the best, if not the best, to do that.
They know the steps.
They know the steps, yeah.
Very practical, very prioritized.
It gets to that level, to that granular level, yeah.
It is. Like, it's not just like the speed. It's not just like the action first that, like that type A can be, for instance. But there is this, like, here's the very linear process to making this thing happen that will benefit all of us.
Yeah. And so they achieve and they succeed, and that's one of the gifts. And 3s oftentimes tell me that there's a bit of shame around their drive for success.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a number of reasons for that, and we work through that with our clients, our 3 clients. But it's also their gift. And I remind them of that. Like, without you, America would not be nearly as successful as it is. So thank you. Like, that's necessary. You've taught us how to achieve and succeed at high levels and how to sort of get past our hang-ups that we get in our way between us and achieving the dream that is within us to achieve. How many people have dreams and how many people have desires and ambitions but never execute them? And for the 3, that's unfathomable. Like, how could you not? If you're designed for this, if this is your gift and this is your calling, what the are you not doing? And what are you doing that you're not achieving this? Like, do it, and here's how. Now, for them, it's automatic. They come up with a plan. They can't even understand how you wouldn't have a plan. But when they become aware, they realize that's their gift.
Yes.
Is they're gifted in having a plan. The rest of us are trying to figure it out, and it takes us a while. They can come up with a pretty effective one. If they can stay with the problem long enough, they will come up with a very, very good plan that almost always works. And so that's where I think the 3 is just so gifted, and is such a blessing for so many people in their lives who have 3s and who know 3s. They can really help you.
And there's this attitude when you succeed, like 3s that are in a good place know how to celebrate you when you succeed. There is this, it's because it's not just, okay, we immediately have to be on to the next thing. They're like, yes, like, this is so great. Like, congratulations, you did it. I feel like some of the best encouragement I've ever gotten is like the 3s in my life, like celebrating me crossing some kind of a threshold, or they've been people who aren't like, well, I need to be as comparative or anything like that. It was just like, great job. I want to see you do awesome. I want all of us to do awesome, because if we all do awesome, then everything's going to be more awesome.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There is so much of that, and there is a high side to that, which is really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So to the 3s, and the reason why I feel like I needed to emphasize that a little bit more is because there is such a reaction I think so many people have, including the 3s themselves, around the issue of success. It's like it comes with some ick sometimes, like, and I just want to say, and not in every circle. I mean, in a lot of circles, success, particularly in American business, it's like, no, that is the goal. But outside of that, 3s are oftentimes met with some kind of, moral superiority. Like you're just about success. You're just about achievement. And I want to say that there's a tremendously high side to that, and for us to tune into that rather than always into the lower side of the 3, which of course, all of us have that lower side of our type
Yeah.
that we're working through. So
the Jewish rabbi, I'm forgetting his name right now, who wrote the book "Thou Shalt Prosper."
yeah.
And there's such a celebration, I think, of a certain aspect of the three energy. He's like, because he defends this idea of creating good work in business and succeeding, and he's talking about it. He goes, unfortunately, in our modern culture, like there's usually painted like the businessman as like the villain, or it's greed, or it's stuff like that, where that didn't even used to be the case. Several years ago, you watched like Sabrina, the Audrey Hepburn movie from the 50s, and she is this guy who runs this huge company, but he talks in the movie, he's talking about like how many people it will help if we can do this, and if we can create this product, how many people will help. And that's the real heart of the three. And I sometimes get upset when they are demonized, or like that the drive for success gets like the shadow of that gets emphasized, because there is this thing where they want people to rise together. They want people to succeed. They want to be able to help. And I mean, the ultimate dream of a healthy three is like, man, I could create something that feeds like hundreds of families, and they're doing it because they're working for themselves. It's not just like aid or a handout. It's like trade.
Correct. That's
because they want them to have the pride. They
Yes.
want them to have the achievement of the pride.
I want you to feel what I'm feeling. Like there's a great feeling in succeeding.
I want you to feel what I'm feeling. And I think that is an amazingly beautiful thing about the three.
That's when the three can celebrate. One type 3 showed me a video, and it's called The Dancing Man. And it's this really funny thing of like some guy who has his dance is not really great, but he starts dancing in a crowd. It's like some festival or something, and there's music playing at a distance, but everybody else is sitting down, and he starts just dancing very free, like doesn't care, just having a great time dancing. Pretty soon another person, it took a while, but pretty soon another person joins him and starts dancing with him, and he's interacting with them, and he's having a great time. Pretty soon a third. And then there's a moment where there's like a critical mass, and then it's like everybody jumps in. I thought it was brilliant. And she was identifying that, to me as that's me at my best. Like it's me celebrating and having a great time, but me also welcoming everybody else. And it not just being like, I might lose my glory if everybody else is dancing. And that sometimes the fear that threes feel. But at their highest, at their best, it's like, no, this is my design. I celebrate because I've succeeded, and other people start to succeed around me. So that's a huge gift, I think, threes bring.
Yeah. Let's talk about the gift of the four a little bit. The gift of the four, the beauty makers, and it's hard for me to even go into that without going to the personal right away, because of how much I feel like I need the fours and I appreciate the space they give. Because the first thing I think of when I think of the fours is they give me permission to create something that I might have otherwise been afraid to create or question. And there's just like, yes, do it. Make things. Make beautiful things. Go for it. Try it. Just you never know if it could turn out beautiful. And they are like these living permission slips to create the impossible.
Yeah. Yes. Well, as what they're called the most idealistic of all types on the Enneagram, is that they do have this constant abiding sense of things could be better. Things could be more beautiful. Things are just not quite right. They could be better. Not in the same sense as the one. It's more aesthetic. It's more about, it does include justice. It does include those, but there's a drive to that, beauty, to that thing that just, it could be more attractive. It could be more unique. It could be more special. It could be different. And it's not there. And so when the four is moving from the strength of their type, they're capable of actually bringing to fruition the thing that is on their heart to do. And they do make the world a more beautiful place. And they do cause people to also feel the uniqueness and the specialness that they are. Like fours can really make you feel special
Yeah.
because it is what they want for themselves. And so they can create that for other people. And so their attention can tend towards people and making sure that people do feel like they are seen, like they are important, like they do have a place at the table. Yeah. And so that's a real wonderful gift that fours bring. I think because of their attention that goes to what's missing in this world, they can actually make things much more elegant and beautiful. It's not just things have to be so pragmatic. Things have to be so just functional.
Yeah.
So utilitarian. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
Like there could be so much more to it. There could be the beauty, the human element, the struggle. Why are we avoiding darkness and pain and struggle? That's part of the human story that is also has its own kind of beauty to it.
Yeah.
Right. And so they bring that out. They bring the emotion that so many people avoid. People are afraid of their own emotions. People are afraid sometimes of the emotions of the world around them. Fours are a little less afraid. They can go into their own emotions and explore them, and then they can help other people to also do the same. And they're quite fine when people fall apart, when people have their issues.
Yeah.
They're not like trying to fix you because you're having emotions. At least what they're not trying to do is to fix your emotions. You shouldn't feel the way you feel. Like fours,
you're not going to hear that.
Fours are not going to fix that. Fours welcome that.
Yeah.
Like that's authentic. That's real. That's the true you. And I'm going to be okay with that. I know some fours who just brilliantly bring in humor, not as a deflection, but to actually help you go even deeper into that space of the discomfort. And I have laughed right alongside of them as they have said things like, something funny, sarcastic in the moment of pain. And you're like, wow, like I can be okay in this place of real pain.
Yeah.
I can bring an okayness to it. And that's cathartic, right? Without that, sometimes we never deal with the emotions and we skip past them, but they're there. And a four can help us get into that and then move on. Like, wow, I feel so much better. I dealt with it. It wasn't the worst thing ever to deal with your emotions. And here we are. So it's just, there's a lot in there, right? Because there's like, you can bring beauty to the space, you can bring, but that's part of the dynamic of the four being so, limit is another thing that fours dislike a lot. Like, the ability to do all kinds of things, to be creative, so that's within the four. And that's why you get this, tremendously nuanced capacity to the four and what they bring to the world. Yeah, they bring beauty. They bring the ability of accessing emotions. And
I think there's an aspect where they solve a problem you didn't even know you had. So there was this experiment that was done in hospitals where there was like some budget, and so they made this area like really beautiful, like waterfalls and gardens. And they found out that the patients who were in that wing needed about 30% less pain meds than other people who were in other wings or who were not in that kind of situation, who weren't surrounded by that kind of a beauty. And I think sometimes beauty is thought of as, or aesthetics is thought of as a convenience, or it's
superfluous.
It's superfluous. It's extravagant. It's over the top. It's not utilitarian.
Right.
But actually, beauty is extremely utilitarian. Apple knew when it's putting out its products, like our products have to be beautiful. Like from the beginning, like that was a important aspect, that people's experience needed to be one that where they open this thing up and it's beautiful. Like the box is beautiful. The thing that holds the charger is beautiful. They have an entire team of artists so that every part of that experience, and more companies now, that was thought of as kind of like over the top or silly at one point. Now more and more companies know, like, no, your website, it can't just have the information on it. It needs to be an experience. It needs to be beautiful. And there is this capacity to see the economics beyond the economics that the fours in your organization will have. Because if you underestimate the aesthetics, you actually reduce the draw to the thing you're offering and you're wanting people to participate in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And, when we say creativity and beauty within a company, it does not mean that everybody who's working on beauty and creativity is a type 4. But what it does mean is that the fact that you have a department like that, if you were to give a type to that department, that would be a type 4.
Yeah.
Right? Not, and again, people within there could be 6s, 9s, 1s, 5s, any type, right? But it draws out the type 4 creativity, the type 4's attention to beauty, to that which calls to the heart, that which calls out to longing, to desire, to something that could be more beautiful and better, right? And so, of course, we have a number of musicians that are type 4s and that have created amazing works, lyrical works, that you read the lyrics, you hear the lyrics, and they speak to you in a way that you don't know why it speaks to you in the way it does.
Yeah.
That's an incredible gift that 4s have.
And it takes all kinds of different forms. Like, even thinking of a friend who's a teacher, and she's like, I'm going to make this math worksheet really beautiful for my students so that they're having this experience of like that even the math sheet is beautiful. There's something in the 4s that tells everyone, don't forget your heart.
Mm-hmm.
I just sent a podcast by a favorite author of mine right now, John O'Donohue, who is an Irish poet and mystic, and he did it On Being with Krista Tippett before he passed away, and it's one of the most beautiful interviews I've ever heard, and how he uses language and how he expresses it, and it just calls to something in me that just says, do not forget yourself. And I sent it to a type 4, a friend of mine, and she leaves me a video message over Marco Polo, just like in tears, like of how beautiful the experience was for her to hear this thing. And I think if you want to remember the richness of life, and if you want the experience of the richness of life in your community, you have to include the voice and the heart and the expression of the 4.
Yeah, excellent. So we're going to practice this meditation, this gratitude meditation for the 2 that's in your life, the 2 that you work with, the 2 that you live with, the 2 that you go to school with. And so bring your attention now to this individual. See if you can envision them, bring to mind your interactions with them, and how sometimes you've seen them in ways that maybe you were frustrated. Maybe you got triggered because, they're so helpful, but sometimes they're maybe too helpful to your mind. Maybe they're trying to connect in ways that feel uncomfortable for you. But bring your attention to the good, the gift, the beauty, the wonder, to their heart, to how much they love and how they are wanting to serve, to help, and how that's been helpful to you at times. Maybe not directly to you, maybe to someone that you know. And instead of dismissing that memory, just bring that memory back now and reflect on it. Let it sit with you. And see that high side. See the good in that. And let your heart fill in this moment with love and gratitude all the way through your being. In fact, feel yourself sort of relax as gratitude fills you. maybe just say thank you. As if you were speaking to them. Thank you. I see it. It may not always be the way I want to be loved, but it's the way you love. And it's great, and I receive it. Thank you. And maybe this week, if you could express that in words to them, in some way, some small way, just a simple, hey, I see it. Thank you for being so helpful to me in these ways. Or thank you for being helpful to these people in this way. I see it. Good. Bring to mind the type 3 that's in your life. Maybe your boss, maybe somebody you work with, maybe it's a parent or a child or someone at school, teacher. And sometimes you notice how driven they are and how they seem to want attention. And instead of staying with the criticism in this moment, can you bring your attention to the good, the wonder, the beauty of their gift? That they do actually achieve and succeed. And that they want to make things in this world better. Their desire is to not only personally achieve, but also to teach others how to do that as well. And that they have a joy that comes from doing that and from seeing other people reach their own dreams and their own goals. See if you can bring your attention to a time where maybe they gave you a solution. Maybe you took it, maybe you didn't. Or if you can bring that memory back, you can now see it through the lens of them loving you, them trying to improve things for you by giving you a plan, by giving you an idea, a way forward. And see if you can let that thought fill your heart up with gratitude. Let that gratitude fill your body as well. Just begin to feel that throughout yourself. See if this week maybe you can convert that thought, that appreciation to words. Maybe just say that to them. Thank you. See how you've given me plans and ideas and thoughts, and sometimes I've not responded to them, but I appreciate that you really do care. And see how that will change the way you feel and the way they feel. As you think about the type 4 that's in your life, maybe some thoughts come immediately to mind, like emotion, sensitivity, drama, intensity. And I'll move through that to the beauty, the gift that they are to you. They do bring beauty. They do bring a sense of safety around emotion. And maybe it's been difficult because you might not be an emotional type, and for you that's more challenging. And yet, it's a gift. The gift that they bring to you that they can be with you, that they can create a space for you to be real with how you feel. Also bring beauty in the workplace. They think outside the box. They make us stand out. They make the organization or the group that they work with stand out and not just get passed over because they didn't do a good enough job. But 4 brings that and stands out and does so in a way that is attractive. Maybe appreciate that in this moment. Let your heart fill with gratitude for what it is they bring. And now see if you can express that sometime this week, maybe. Just a simple thank you. Thank you for seeing outside of the box. Thank you for seeing ways of doing things that bring more of the human factor, more touch, something more real, more personal, and certainly more beautiful.
So thank you so much for joining us again. As we often say, we appreciate your interest in our work, but mostly we appreciate that you are doing your inner work that will influence the world around you and make it better. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, please do so. And if you leave us a review on iTunes, it really helps people find the show. And it keeps us on the forefront of the searches where we would like to stay. So thank you for putting us there in the first place. Something we haven't mentioned in a little bit is if you're interested in relationship coaching specifically, you can contact me, Jim Zartman, and my wife and I do that together. We also have someone else coming on our team, so we'll have an announcement about that here in the next few weeks. You can also contact Joel for coaching as well through our website, theartofgrowth.org. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram, which is just Art of Growth. This episode has been produced by me, Jim Zartman, at Talkie Records Studio in Lynn, Massachusetts. Thank you, and have a great week.